You are transformed by the images you behold. And one of the wisest choices of images to behold are the holy icons.
Welcome back to the Black American Experience in the Orthodox Church. As you know, my name is Father Samuel Davis, and we have an incredible guest for you this session. Very rarely do we get to meet living icons or living luminaries of the experience that we have here in our nation. Terri Neal, who was baptized Veronica, is an example of one of these people. Her life has been spent working towards the healing of racism and prejudice in our nation, in our hometown of Jacksonville, Florida. I would have to give a phone call to my dear brother, Father Nicholas Lowe, and ask him what's going on in Jacksonville. This is now the second member of his parish that is going to be interviewed for our program. To our viewers, please welcome Terri Veronica Neal. Veronica, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Father Samuel. It's a joy to be with you and with the OCN audience. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Veronica, you have lived through a front row experience of prejudice, racism, and bigotry in America. Have you shared with me personally in the past your dedication to working towards the healing of racism and prejudice? Tell me, how have those experiences inspired you to share your faith, but also to bear witness of Christ in your civic work in the city of Jacksonville?
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't first start with the impact that Orthodox Christianity has had on me. After going through many different expressions of Christianity and even a period of what I would call atheism, not being sure that God even existed at all. So perhaps agnosticism would be a better way to describe it. God miraculously used Orthodox Christianity to call me back to Him. I am forever grateful for His mercy and His grace calling me home through the Orthodox Church. And although it wasn't the main determining factor, it was a factor when I began to visit a couple of the churches and read different things and watch certain videos and see representations of holy people of African descent that I hadn't seen in other Christian expressions to this degree, and in some places not at all. So seeing that representation and given my own lived experience as an African American in the United States and the things that we've endured as a people and even in my own family, the two are a natural fit for me. One example, when you see these Black saints, it calls to mind people who shaped my faith journey even as a little girl. Mm-hmm. You know, we have very strong traditions in the American Black Church of people who mentor us in faith. People like my mother, my grandmother, so many others. And to see those sort of representations in the worship space, in the understanding of our roots of Africa in the early church, was just an amazing connection for me.
Thank you so much for sharing that. With your work in civic authority in the city of Jacksonville, you've been a very integral role in lifting up the dignity, the awareness, and the value of the Black American family. Last time I checked, I believe Jacksonville is has one of the most populated Black cities within our nation. Can you please share with our viewers the importance of that dignity of the Black family in your work?
Well, for example, I've been involved in a couple of groups against racial injustice. And not only does that uplift the value of those of us of African descent, it returns, I believe, the conscience of our nation back to the center where it should be, and where in some regards it never really has been. I've been involved in a couple of different groups, the latest one being an organization called Take 'em Down Jacks, where we have worked to remove Confederate monuments from public spaces in this city. And just a couple of months ago, thanks be to God, we were successful in getting the last one removed. And why does that matter? It matters because monuments um, not only represent or honor people or events, they also enshrine ideologies.
Mhm.
So we have to ask ourselves when when statues are erected to honor the Confederacy, for example, where the Articles of Secession of each of the slaveholding states cited slavery as the reason for seceding from the Union. We have to ask, do we really want to glorify that mindset?
Mhm.
And from a civic view and a Christian view, I feel it's a dishonest honor to history. I feel it's an ungodly thing to do, frankly. Um, so we were in probably a 10-year fight to get those statues down out of our city. Prior to that, we had a campaign to remove Confederate names from our public schools, and we've been successful with that as well. You just don't honor people and ideologies who want to use human beings as cattle. And that's exactly what chattel slavery was. So grateful for those efforts. But now, as an Orthodox Christian, I see that through an even more spiritual lens, valuing the people um, from whom the early church was rooted, I think. When you look back into early church history and the way the gospel traveled from those first apostles, and we need to teach that history again to our own people.
Mhm. Veronica, thank you so much. This segues into our next question. In recent media, the uncovering of the icons of African saints has been released and has caused quite a stir among Black nationalist cults, the Black Hebrew Israelites, the Nation of Islam. Please share with our viewers, from your experience, why is this important? And at the same time, how is it a wide open door to a missional opportunity for the Orthodox Church?
That's a great question. We often hear the adage, a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Hmm.
And if an average picture is worth 1,000 words, then how much more valuable are our holy icons? We know the icons were essentially the first Sunday school book.
Hmm.
And I believe the use of icons of persons of African descent would accomplish a number of things. Number one, it would open African descendants to their place in the gospel story, in the Christian story. It would give our community better images to look at and ways to behold ourselves.
Hmm.
But so much in the culture that portrays us in a bad light. And I remember something that I heard recently. You are transformed by the images you behold. That's why you should choose your images wisely. And one of the wisest choices of images to behold are the holy icons, examples of those who lived the Christian faith, who went through struggle and suffering and all of that and endured and overcame by the grace of God. We badly need those examples. And also, they provide a welcome mat for persons of African descent looking into the Orthodox Church or even looking toward Christ. But it's not, icons are not just valuable for persons of African descent. Some may not think so, but our white brothers and sisters need them too, because they're a teaching tool into the African roots of Christianity that they may not know. And I believe walking into a church and seeing icons of color reinforces the knowledge that we too are God's children. We too are precious in His sight. We too are made in His image. And that would counter, again, the narrative that we are beneath other people. We have dignity and worth too, especially in Jesus Christ. I was so touched when I first saw a video of Father Deacon John Gresham as he recalled, I believe, his very first visit to an Orthodox church. And he walked in, sat down, and noticed white people coming in and venerating and kissing icons of saints of African descent. That was touching to me. I remember going into a local church, our local Antiochian Orthodox church, just visiting. Had no idea I would ever become Orthodox. And when I sat in the back pew and looked around at the iconography, my eyes just stopped. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing, to the point where I waited until everyone filed out of church, where I could go up and inspect the icon more closely. And it was a large crucifix with the body of Christ on it. But what struck me about it was the skin tone of that depiction of Christ almost matched the wood of the cross. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, because I hadn't seen much of that at all in any other Christian expression, not even in the Black churches.
Isn't that
So
crazy?
it is. It really is. So that really impacted me. Again, that wasn't the main reason I came to Orthodoxy, but it certainly was a bright light for me to see that depiction.
Thank God. You were sharing with us earlier about the importance of your mother and grandmother transitioning you into the Christian faith. In the Black church tradition, there's an honorific where we call the eldresses within our places of worship mothers. I believe in very much so of a way in your life, you've been a spiritual mother of sorts to Micah and Agatha triplet, Lenoris and Dominique triplet. And I'd like to know, like, what has been your experience being in that position at St. John of Divine, as you guys are all maturing in the faith, but at the same time, you fill that role not only for them, but the forthcoming converts that will be coming into that parish. How has that experience been for you?
It's been fulfilling. It was a surprise to me, actually. Again, being a new convert, I was just chrismated, I think, in 2022. So it hasn't been that long ago. But God has a way. There's no gospel song that says God has a way and His way is mighty sweet.
Yes.
And I've been introduced to younger people, both Black and white, that we've connected, and they confide in me, and I confide things in them and share things from my life experience. There was a couple who was recently married in the Orthodox Church. They had been married before, but again, they're very newly chrismated, and they wanted to say their vows in the Orthodox Church. And they had no parental support in town to be with them, young white couple. Mm-hmm. So I was there to be support to them along with their sponsors. And it was just an honor to watch this beautiful thing unfold under the eyes of the church. And as far as the triplet family, we share back and forth, especially Micah and I, about our past religious backgrounds and the things that we see God doing in relation to the Orthodox Church in our lives, and the way that sometimes outreach comes to us without us even looking for it.
Thank God.
And it's great to be able to bounce those things off of one another and rejoice in that.
Mm-hmm. It's such an incredible story. Well, Veronica, thank you so much for your time and your kind words. I like to share with you publicly, so our reviewers would know this, that I just love the sweetness of your heart and how you didn't stop your work coming from outside of the Orthodox Church and into the church, of being an agent of healing, of love, and restoration to your local community. And I'm looking forward to hearing more great news from Father Nicholas about your work, and also from the Triplet family. God bless you, and to our viewers, thank you once again for joining us on this journey, the Black American experience in the Orthodox faith. Thank you.